Hey, ladies and gentlemen, I hope all is well with you. Due to some unforeseen circumstances, we want you to follow us on our new channel, Unifying Families Worldwide. Be sure to follow us and click that notification bell to stay tuned for all of our upcoming videos. We've got great things in store for you. So, follow us at our new channel, Unifying Families Worldwide. Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning, wherever you are joining us live today for our show, Men on Monday. And we continue in our series titled Being Broke is No Joke. And I'm telling you, it is a season where many are seeing transitions and trying to navigate the transitions that we face when it comes to finances. But it's all a part of our series titled Becoming a Better Man. So join us, gather around wherever you are, and of course, like our live stream as we discover this how you can be a better man. And first, let me offer apologies for Minister Sinclair being unable to join us this morning. I'm sure if he can, he will jump in at some point to join us. And I want to say good morning to Sinclair and the folks over at Healthy Cottage. But this morning, I want to say welcome to Pastor Edison Bino, Bishop Mark. Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning to all of our viewers who are with us. Like and share our live stream today. We are talking about becoming a better man. Being broke is no joke. So, good morning, gentlemen.
Hey, good morning, Marissa. I'm going to let Bishop Mark jump right in.
Well, good morning, everyone. It's good to be with you yet another Monday morning. Today is indeed the day that the Lord has made. We are going to definitely rejoice in it as we share with you this morning. Good morning to everybody. May God bless you. And, may you find something here today to encourage you to be a better believer, a better person for the Lord.
Amen. I can't add anything more to that. This is the day that the Lord has made. We're definitely going to rejoice and be glad in it. This is also the start of Javi's regional conference. So, at a certain time, I'll be slipping out to drop in on that. But I just want to say good morning to everyone. Hope you had a great weekend. And for the mothers that would have had their day a week ago, we hope that you had a phenomenal day, that you enjoyed the day. And so we're looking forward to just talking about money and the different aspects of money. And Marissa has chosen the theme, being broke is no joke. So we're going to explore that a little bit along with some other principles.
Yes, so now I'm back with you. Yes, so it is interesting. It is interesting. Good morning to you, Kelia, and all who are with us, especially those of you who are following us on YouTube this morning. Being broke is no joke, and I don't think it's only about men, but for women too. So I want the women to gather in on this. Being broke is no joke, and the lack of such resources and how it affects you, how it affects your family, how it affects even your spiritual life, because sometimes people, these things spill into everything. It's interconnected. It's not separate and distinct, but these aspects flow into us and flow into every aspect of our life. And one of the things that is interesting, the word of God says that money is important, not the love of it, but that money is important. So we cannot negate the fact that money is important. And I often hear there's always this great debate about the church always wanting money and pastors always wanting money. But I want to say to people, we need money. God created it that way, that money must be a part of our lives. It is an integral part of our lives. But it is not the love or the pursuit of it that will destroy you. You must be careful. But we do need money. So, Pastor Edison, let's start with you. Or do we jump to Bishop Mark? Who's going to start talking about being broke? Is no joke.
Well, the thing about it is that I know my wife and we have gone through different situations as far as finances were concerned, especially when we were in the US. So we definitely can speak from experience about not having the finances, not being able to meet your needs. And sometimes people think that once you minister the gospel, that you automatically have money, that you roll in money, you driving big car, you got big house, you got all of them different things. But there are a lot of ministers that, if they're honest with you, they're struggling financially. Yeah, they're doing the work of the Lord because they love the Lord and they love the people of God, but they're really not getting any proper compensation from it. Some pastors won't have a pension plan. Some won't have things like medical insurance or any type of insurance. So sometimes the ministry really doesn't pay anything significant, contrary to what people might see on television, where you have a couple big name pastors and so on that might be making millions. But that definitely is not the case with a lot of ministers. So not have, sorry, that's my doorbell that kind of interrupting things. But not having money, I mean, that was a very difficult time for us. Yeah, you're not even knowing what you're necessarily going to be eating. You still got to feed the children and so on. You're kind of not having a proper place to live type thing. So that was a reality. That was a tough time, more so emotionally. Yeah, and spiritually, we had our faith in God, and we were trusting God and so on, and we were getting some help, from my mom in Barbados. But definitely, it was difficult, and so we want to talk about some different principles, because there's a whole element of being broke and because of circumstances that are beyond your control. But then there are also biblical principles that we have to look at, principles of financial management that we have to look at, and we have to understand. Yeah, because where you are now does not have to be where you are in the future. And the Bible does make provision for us to plan for our finances, to look at ways how we can generate income, steward money, manage it well, and so on. So we're going to explore some of those principles, because if you're going to be better men, it's not only a matter of dealing with things emotionally, but it's also a matter of understanding practically what are some of the things that we can do to help bring us out of the financial deficit. Yeah, so there's some things that we can look at, and I know Bishop Mark is going to be able to say a lot about that, and also how the lack of finances can even impact on your marriage and stuff like that, and even on your family and your children and their own dreams and aspirations, that kind of thing. So the lack of money can have a lot of impact. Yeah, Bishop Mark.
Yeah, thanks for the preamble there. Listen, I want to just jump straight into it and say this here. If there's one area, I mean, it's not always that for everybody, because, some people, bread is butter with ham, but generally speaking, that becomes, there are a lot of things that would affect relationship, but you see, money, I have had situations where I would have been counseling people, and they would start off by saying, oh, they knew that they were for each other. God spoke to them. They knew that this person was for them. They have everything planned out in terms of how many children they want and all these things. And for the time you say, what about your finances? There's like a hush in the room. And I remember one particular couple having done told me all the reasons why they should be together. And I asked them to deal with their finances. One used to be walking around a lot of money because obviously his business was in cars and so on. So he could have like $10,000 pocket any given day. She was an accountant, so I had. And so what I found is that when it came out to disclose or put in everything in the pool, that is where the problem comes. You hear people talk about, we are one, and I believe that we should work together. And then you hear them at the end of the conversation say, I will put what's supposed to be in the pool and the rest is mine. I keep mine, he keep his. We put what the bills are. From the time you hear that, you get and realize that people are still, they want relationship, they want to maybe get married, but they still want this individuality thing. And so money, the lack of it does not necessarily have to be a problem, because once you got some, you can work with it. But I think people's mindsets, people culturalization in relation to money is where the problem comes. And a lot of times, if you are not somebody who will do your financial planning, in other words, budgeting and so on, if you're somebody who likes to spend, and I will want to say here, although we are a men's boy, I don't want to knock the ladies, but you find that generally speaking, there are exceptions to every rule, but generally speaking, you find that that women are more, especially because their bags and shoes always on special and things of that nature, tend to be these what you would call, buy as it comes, not as you need, as it comes. And this can also cause some challenges. So the key thing to it though is that it's important that whatever resources you have, I've seen people with a lot and miserable. I've counseled people who had a little bit, but because they were willing to cut and tuck and sacrifice and so on, they were better able to handle their money problems. But when you're broke, it can make it difficult. But it does not mean that, you see, once you have resources and you're willing to plan, too many people do not budget. People buy according to how they feel. They do impulse buying. So if they have 15 days of specials on shoes and bags, you could bet the majority get run after those things because it's a special. They're cheaper, right? Before realizing that even although a $50 pair of shoe that might be now, Marissa ducking there, but a $50 pair of shoe that is now selling at $25, if that $25 is going to have an impact on what you do in your relationship, if it's going to impact maybe if the light bill is going to get paid, if it's going to impact maybe your plans for a holiday coming up in another year's time. And I have found, again, this is a men's program, but I want to say from our side, because we got to let the ladies know how we feel. Most of the time you find, generally speaking, that it is difficult sometimes to get women to nip and tuck and to go off what they want. I'm sure a lot of men would tell us that. And so what we men have had to do is to hold back. My wife said, more will come. I found from her example and other women that women feel that when they work for money, right, they should get something out of it every month. Like me, not man, most men say, well, look, let me save for a rainy day. And so don't get me wrong, there are some men who are spendthrifts too. There are some men who are very careless. But generally speaking, we would want to hold back a little bit and so on. But, the ladies still want that flowers. They still want that thing. Although you would have just discussed a plan, they're sent to divert and so on. But I'll leave that there to stir the nest and hear what the others will say.
Well lost, Bishop Mark. You definitely can stir up some trouble there because we have had women that have managed households, and those women have learned how to economize, and they have learned how to make the money stretch. So some things in household, there are women who make the money stretch, and then there are men that are indifferent, and they're spending the money indiscriminately. Now the thing about it too is that's
too money. You hear what I just said?
But sometimes when the men spend money, the men spending money on the big things because might go and buy the bags and so on, and sometimes they might buy a cheap pair of shoes and so on. For some men, it gotta be brand name, it gotta be certain type of car or vehicle and so on. So some of the big expenditure is at men. Whereas women, yes, they might go into the supermarket and they go in with the intent of buying one thing, and then they come out with 5 things, and you're in the car waiting. We understand that. Yeah, but if sometimes men going shopping, men might go and buy the big expensive things, spend out all the money. And then the women are really challenged because sometimes the women might be the ones who are trying to save money. And you're right. Some women do feel that, look, if I make money, I should have the opportunity to enjoy a little bit of it. I shouldn't have to spend it all. If I want to travel every now and again, I should be able to travel and so on. But since we're going to be focused on the men, yeah, and it's about being better men, we need to look at some of the principles that will help us to be better men. And I like what Bishop Mark said. He talked about the importance of a budget. Now, you might not have a detailed budget, but you have to be able to look at your income, yeah, and write down how much money you make a month. And you have to then look at your expenses. How much money do you spend a month? And you have to reconcile the two figures. Is there a deficit or do I have enough? Yeah, and then you have plan for the fact that you're going to have some contingencies. So in your budget, you got to look at your income, you got to look at your expenditure, and then you also have to track your expenses, because sometimes you have a budget, but you're not tracking where the money going. And so at the end of the month, you look back and you say, wait, where this money went? I thought I had money, but then you weren't tracking what you were spending. And sometimes what's happened, right? You go into the supermarket, you got your grocery budget, but then you get to the aisle and they got some chocolates there and things. So you say, all right, let me spend a little money on them things. And so after a while, the money adds up, but you don't recognize that when you buy the snow cone here and you buy some Akis here and some pineapple there, whatever it is, that the money that you're spending, that is adding up. But you may not have had that money allocated in your budget. So at the end of the month now, you're looking and you're saying, by God, deficit, how this thing happened? Yeah, but if I am doing it and my wife's doing it and we spending little monies here and there, then eventually the whole budget gets undermined and then we're going to be challenged. So I think Bishop Mark made an excellent point. You got to have some kind of budget. That's an important part of financial management. Yeah.
And that's key, because one of the things that we do tout here is the fact that counseling is necessary. It's important for you to have those conversations that sometimes you might not think are necessary. And there's so much to learn sometimes when you have those conversations that makes you address areas that you would necessarily not, have the tools to address. And that's interesting that Bishop Mark would talk about women spending. And then I'm glad that Pastor Edison did come back and say that there are men who spend, because I know there are men who believe that buying a pair of no brand loafers cannot compare to him buying a pair of Converse. So he must have the Converse and not the no name loafers. He must have the expensive $500 shoes, and then based on the size of his foot, that even makes it.
And don't forget the technology, Marissa.
And then
technology,
and every time they look around, they buy something for the vehicle. I'm serious. I've lived that. Every time they look around, it's something for the vehicle. So it's interesting that we discuss that, because the dynamics of money, and something that Bishop Mark just said, the dynamics of money, when you don't discuss them. For example, you've often heard in relationships where men are sometimes taught that, it's interesting enough that we've evolved, where you would have heard men say they work, they came home, they put down the pay pack, the woman would then take out, what's necessary, and she does the budgeting and the management of the house. And then she also makes sure that he has something, because he understands that his responsibility is also financial, to take care of the household. And that was then. But then where we see roles change now, where women are also working, contributing to the household, sometimes even being the sole breadwinner, then the roles and the understanding of money has changed, where sometimes women determine that, we make all the decisions, or there's some women who say, he's still my husband, he's still my spouse, we're in this relationship together, we determine what happens with the money cooperatively, not necessarily one person making that decision. So it's quite interesting that you said that, Bishop Mark, because not having these discussions, especially not having joint bank accounts, there's always that big thing. Should we have a joint bank account? Should we not have a joint bank account? What happens? Should we pool all of the money all together? I remember there was another young pastor who told me that he was counseled, and the counselor told them that there's one bank account. So if he makes $200 and she makes $500, everything goes into one pool and it takes care of the entire family. And I had some women say, not going to happen. Not going to happen. So that's quite interesting. It'd be interesting to hear our gentlemen share their thoughts on, how money should be managed. Should we really discuss this? Should it be that, we have a joint bank account where if our bills come to $2,000 a month, regardless, everybody puts half and half, and the rest that's left, you determine what happens with your money. Notice I just said with your money, because it's not the collective, our money. So it's interesting that you would share that. And I want to jump in here.
Get in there. Yeah, definitely.
I want to jump in and say that, remember that you can find some of these great tips in Bishop Bino's book that is available online, 8 success factors for a healthy life. And I'm sure he discusses this too in his book. So make sure that you get his book online. Bishop Mark, go ahead.
Yes, my book has a whole chapter on budgeting too, by the way. Yes, but what you've said a lot of things that, you see, as we've discussed on this program all the time, you see, action brings reaction, and so you made some good points. If you go into a relationship, I say this to the men, and your wife has the capabilities to handle money better than you, leave it to your wife. That's my advice to the men, because there are some men feel that because they are the man, they must run things, and as we have said, spend the money just as bad as any woman that might spend it bad. But what I'm saying is we are leaders, not bosses. So if we find that our wives or spouses or whoever have a aptitude for running the dollars, right? Let them do that. Right now, if on the other hand you find that your spouse, gentlemen, like to spend at every drop of the hat, you give them $100 to go and buy a pound of sugar. When they come back, you get back $1 and they buy sugar, flour, salt, everything, and some chocolates. My thing for that is when you get to that scenario, then there has to be a discussion. We here talk about joint accounts. These things are good. I always think that each individual should still have, when it comes to, should still have an account belonging to themselves. And here's why I say that. Because you must seek to develop credit rating as an individual, because that will help the relationship as a whole. If I got a good credit rating in my bank and my wife got a good credit rating, then we go out for a house or we go for a loan, we are more marketable. Also, having the separate accounts, not your own account, you hardly know anything. Each person still know all about that account in case something happens. But if your wife wants to go and buy a bra, want to hit some of the specials in town, if you have a plan for her to keep her little piece, it will not affect the running of the whole. Okay, because a lot of people, because of what they've gone through, maybe past relationships, they don't have a lot of confidence. They think somebody can, despite you love me, they might not love me next week and run with my money. So we have to put things in place to be confident. I don't want my wife coming and saying, oh, we can only spend $100 without discussion. She's a big woman. She should be able to, and trust me, to make decisions based on what is required. But if we have our own separate, and not separate because we are separated, but because we are seeking to give each other still a bit of independence, and now you take care of all the bills, by pooling and have that joint account. I will also say that a very key component of the whole thing with finances and money, there must be some savings. Somebody mentioned just now, there must be an aspect of savings. If my money is to save 5 cents from $1, you would be surprised how it will add up over a period of time. So it's important that you have that when you're budgeting, have a section for savings. You see, because if you got the savings and something happened, you don't have to run to the bank and say, look, where's your account? Where's your account? The whole thing is that you are better able to handle anything that might come that you're not planning for. But I'll also say that one of the things that have to be done up front, don't mind the money part, and I think Lady Marissa mentioned there just now, is that people must be able to sit down and seek to understand each other. For example, I know that whenever my wife see a special, she's going to want to try at least to look at it. So what I do is that I budget for that, or we budget for that, so that when she goes on her tangent to get these bags until we go away and all she in a store doing is bags and bra, whatever, I'm not worried because I already have discussed that. I've already factored in, right? I've factored in that. So when that comes, it don't throw me off. In the early days of our marriage, that would get me real vexed, But I realized that, look, you put that in there, and if you have given her, or you all have developed this whole, not given, because we have developed this whole thing of having our separate accounts, then what that does is that it gives her the freedom. If you want to spend your gravy on shoes, it's up to you, right? But I will do mine differently. And that's what we got to do. We have to have those conversations and then recognize that my situation and my wife will be obviously different to Pastor Edison. Your experiences, Marissa, will have been different. So, we have to realize that we are unique in our relationships. There are certain basic things that will cover everybody, but then we have to make calculated decisions as to how our particular situation. That's why I never say to my people when they come to things that one thing fits all. It don't necessarily happen like that.
You said something quite interesting there, because this is where education is key. To understand that creating the separate accounts helps to build credit. We don't discuss those things because if you're going for a house or you're looking to purchase a land or make an investment, her credit and your credit, both spouses, it affects going forward. So these are the discussions that you need to have. I think someone is not pleased with some of the things that we're saying there, but I want you to understand it is a collective whole. It is a collective whole. You're not it's just somebody who clicked an angry face. That's all right. But I want him to understand that she should also be able to do. He should also be able to do. I will take my leg to this. I do not think that a husband, unless your finances are so dire, because I know there are times and seasons when finances, the money might not be there, But let's say a husband needs a new pair of boxers or something, and he might need to say, "Hun, I know things tight, but I need a new belt, or I need a new pair of boxers, or my socks have a," and I mean because you're budgeting and maybe the money isn't there, and you have those discussions. But it should never be that on a whole, if a decision is to make, that she decides to buy a lip gloss or buy a lipstick, and he decides that he's going to buy something, a new pair of shoes, that should be a great cause for noise in the relationship. Because if it is, that means the finances are not really being managed correctly. So go ahead, Pastor Bino.
Sorry, I had to look in on Facebook and see how, at what point the angry face was mentioned. But the whole important thing though, if you're looking at money in the context of a marriage, yeah, the idea is that you have to have a conversation and you have to have an agreement as to how the money is going to be spent. Even if you have joint accounts, separate accounts, whatever, you have to determine that the money really is our money. It's for the benefit of the family. And therefore, it is not exclusively my money. It is not exclusively the wife's money. It doesn't matter who makes more than who. We are married, so there's a sense of unity. And therefore, we have to discuss how we are going to manage the money. And I like what Bishop Mark said, because Bishop Mark mentioned the fact that you allocate money for certain things. You allocate money for the bills, which is important because you have to make sure that the bills are paid and that the bills are paid on time, so that your credit rating is not negatively impacted. Yeah. But you allocate money. If the wife wants to spend money in a particular area, then you can put aside money. For example, my wife likes to travel. She doesn't get to travel as often as before, but she likes to travel. So one of the things is money needs to be put aside for that. Yeah, you try to budget for that. You can put a line item in the budget that says, hey, that is travel money, and that can be put aside. It doesn't have to be a lot of money at a time. It could be a little bit of money put down, and you put it down with the intention that this money is for that purpose. Yeah, you have your other money allocated for your monthly expenses, your monthly responsibilities, and so on. So there are a lot of principles that I think are important for managing money. And we mentioned the important in marriage. We got to discuss. Yeah, we got to come to an agreement. We also have to change our mindset. It is not my money versus your money. It is our money, because we are married. The two have become one. If the two have become one, then you're one in every aspect. Yeah. Now some people get married and they say, well, if the marriage goes south, at least I will have my own money. We know that there are unfortunate circumstances where marriages have broken up or broken down. I know one couple, the marriage was going south. The woman had money on her account. The marriage was breaking down. The man took off all the money, and it was really her earned money, because he was not working and generating any income, and he took all the money because he was on her account. So yes, you do have those kind of nightmare stories when the marriage is breaking down. But when the marriage is healthy, everything is shared. Yeah, everything is shared. The money, the responsibilities, everything. So I would encourage, give a couple principles before Bishop Mark jumps back in. But I would say learn about finances. The Bible is replete with verses that deal with money. Yeah, money is an important topic in the Word of God. So you can you can do a Google search, scripture verses on money, and you will see that there are several aspects on money, and not just giving, because many times when we think about money, we think of giving to the Lord, giving to the church, etc. But there's more than that. There is generating money, there is effective management of money, there is saving money, there is investing money. So there's a lot of principles in the Word of God to help us to govern our money without becoming greedy or corrupted by money. As you mentioned, Marissa, it is not about loving money. It is recognizing that money is a tool that is to be used to help us to meet our needs, and also to be able to give to others who are in need, and give to the church, etc. Yeah, so we talked about creating the budget. A part of money and healthy money management is to recognize that we have a responsibility to give to God and to others. Yeah. So we need to understand that God blesses us. And not only does he bless us, but the money belongs to him. We got to understand that the money belongs to him. What he has made us, he has made us stewards. We are managers of the money that God has given us. But everything that we are, everything that we own, ultimately belongs to God. So it's not my money. It is not my wife's money. It is first and foremost God's money. And once we understand that it belongs to God, then we expect God to direct us in how to spend it. And also we expect to give back something, whether you believe in tithe or you don't believe in tithe. At the end of the day, the Bible talks about generosity in giving. So if the Bible talks about generosity in giving, then you are expected to give something for the benefit of the people of God that are in need. The Bible says that we're to take care of the widows and the orphans and that kind of thing. So we got to have a line item in our budget that says, look, this money belongs to God. Yeah, some people believe that you tithe, you take the money off the top. However you do it, the reality is you got to understand, look, a portion of this income is to be given back to God out of thanksgiving for how he has blessed me, and also for the benefit of his work and the advance of his kingdom. Yeah, so we shouldn't struggle with that. That is something that we need to build into our budget. I see Bishop Mark is back in, so I'm gonna let him jump in there and give some more thoughts.
Go ahead, Bishop Mark. You have to unmute. And
Yeah, very good points there, Bishop. What I would add to it, though, is that there must be. Yes, yes. Hello.
Yeah, go ahead.
My mic is unmuted.
Go ahead.
Y'all still hear me?
We're hearing you. Yeah.
Yes. You hear me now? Right. Somebody was probably trying to call in the midst of that over there. And, oh.
Where you can get started up.
Yeah, someone was trying to call him there. You could see that someone was trying to call.
Yeah. Sometimes you get those interruptions when you're using your cell phone. Okay, so Bishop Mark kind of had to drop out. All right, so the thing that we're talking about becoming a better man financially. And so as men, we are expected to provide a certain level of leadership in our homes. And therefore, we have to understand money. We have to understand how to use it. We have to understand how to generate it. We have to understand how to spend it. Yeah. And so in my notes, I have here that you got to avoid the spend it all mentality. For example, there are people who get extra money. And from the time they get that extra money, they think, how can I spend it? Yeah, but sometimes it's not always a matter of spending it. It might be a matter of saving it. It might be a matter of putting it aside. You don't have to spend everything that you get. You can you can develop some money for savings. And I would encourage people, and there's a level that we in the church we need to get to. We have to get not only to a level of savings, but we need to get to a level of investment, where now we can multiply the money that we make, because money has a purpose. If we look at, I'm not saying that we're all going to be wealthy. I'm not saying that we're all going to be millionaires and billionaires and that type of thing. There are some people that will be. God will give them the capacity to generate huge amounts of wealth, and we should not criticize them. What we should do is pray for them, that God will give them wisdom, that when he blesses them with that kind of wealth, that they use it for his glory and for his purpose. And the Bible does give principles for the wealthy. Yeah, so the Bible knew that there were going to be people that would be wealthy. There were people that were wealthy in biblical times, and the apostles gave direction as to how they should manage their wealth, how they should give to benefit others, and so on. But we have to understand investment. And why talk about this is that this is not about just getting your own home and stuff like that. There are principles for that, getting your own home and that kind of thing. But even if we look at world evangelization or world missions, you need millions of dollars to get the gospel around the world. Yeah. So even from that perspective, when you invest the money, you're generating money for different purposes. One, you're generating money to meet your needs, both present and future needs. And sometimes we don't think of the fact that someday we're going to be retired and we're not going to be getting the income that we were getting before. So we got to think now long term. How do I set aside money for that long term future, right? We can invest in things like renewable energy. We can look for stocks, some bonds that we can buy. We can have money for emergencies. Yeah, so we should have some money allocated for emergencies that if something happen, and things happen in life. We had a freak storm that blew through and destroyed certain things and people rooftops and so on. Yeah, and so you need to have money for contingencies or emergencies, and then their future plans. If you have young children, I want you to understand.
Bishop Mark,
Yeah.
Bishop Mark, your life, dude. That's what you know your life.
Uh, start courting the wife, in other words. All right, so things happen in a life. Like for example, you might have young babies, but before you know it, those young babies are going to be ready for university. They're going to be ready for tertiary education. Do you have something in place that if UE is no longer free, and even if UE is free, understand something, there are expenses. There are still expenses. You got to get books. You got to get laptop. You got to get internet. You have to have certain things. So are you thinking ahead, thinking about the future, thinking about some of the future objectives? Yeah. If my roof blows off my house or whatever, yeah, you might have some insurance to cover it. But what out of pocket expenses might I have to consider? So you still have to think about long term. What are some of the future responsibilities and so on that you would have? Yeah, I see Faye Merle saying your life, Bishop. All right, I can help.
One of the things, as you're speaking, Bishop Edison, I want to say good morning to all who are with us, and just hit that like button and share a live stream. I think that when it comes to money, we need to really relearn some truths about money. I think that we have been so timid and afraid of money that we've had poor some poor concepts about how money operates and how it can work for us, and not be afraid of money, so to speak. So for me, when I hear oftentimes people say things like, but money this, and they always want money. And as you said, Pastor Bino, as soon as you get money, you think about how you have to spend it. This needs to be done. And yes, that might be the case. But there's also the aspect that says, if you know you're going to get an extra $100, put down $25. You didn't have it originally. You did not have it originally. So put down that $25 and not look back at it. And I think that when we consider, we need to understand that money can work for us. It is not supposed to work against us. And also the control that's necessary. Even though we talk about women liking to spend money and also men liking to spend money, there's a time you have to say, do I really need it? I must admit, I was a stickler for shoes, but I never bought a pair of shoes unless they were on sale. I could tell you, I could find $200 shoes when they come down to $25. Yes, I could find them. I must admit, I was able to find those deals. But for me, I think that when it comes to relationships, we need to understand that there are benefits that come from having money in the relationship. There's also the hardships that come because of not having the correct practices in place. So, for example, when we think about investing in money, you're building a home, solar panels, it works for you in the long run, even though it is a required investment at some point in time. Investing in yourself and going to school, those things work for you in the long run. Also, invest in your time. There's nothing wrong with spending time with going on a staycation with your family or your spouse. That's also investment. But there's also investment in putting aside. So we need to understand that money can work for us and it's not against us, so to speak. You enjoy your money, but you can also invest and save your money, and change some improper mindsets that we've had to get about money, and especially when it comes to giving, because we only think about giving, tithing, and we see it in a negative manner. But there are also blessings that come from giving to charities and so forth, and being able to assist those that need us. I just think that we need to see money as a blessing and not as a curse, and rethink and as I say, unlearn some improper truths that we have held on to that have been passed from generation to generation, and allow money to bless us and not hurt us, in essence, when it comes to relationships. And as Bishop Mark said, we need to first understand how we understand money, if I can say that. Because if you are one who that to buy a wife needing a new brassiere is an issue, but you have two, and she needs to have more than two, but she shouldn't only have two. You know, he shouldn't have only three boxers. Those kind of things, and those things should not also cause major rifts in a relationship. They should not cause major rifts in a relationship. But I also want to talk about something, Bishop Mark. What about when you can't trust your spouse with money? Because we're talking about that, but what about if you can't trust your spouse with money? I don't even if you may be in a relationship with you're living with a man or a woman. What happens when I can't trust money?
Well, that is where I always say the person who has the aptitude to do that. But to get people to change their habits or how they're being culturalized is very difficult, and that's why you find a lot of couples fight on this issue. And if you have, for example, a man who might feel a little intimidated by a more self-reliant wife or spouse or whatever, then you can find that person easing off, trying to put down their foot because they don't want any trouble and so on. But that is why I add to the whole scenario we talk about. You mentioned some stuff there I want to add and agree with you. That is why saving is so important, because saving helps you for anything that come up that you didn't plan for. But one of the things I will put in all of this is that one must be reasonable. Now, that is not easy to everybody to do, but you must be reasonable. Because and I always tell people, write down everything, because if the evidence suggests that you like to spend at the whim, you have to accept that. And that's where a lot of us struggle, both men and women, because sometimes we feel intimidated or feel, take it important because of other issues, and then it affects this. But we must be reasonable, right? You must sit down and look at the pros and cons and be reasonable. Make an informed decision. Don't make an emotional decision where you feel that body, you feel I can't control myself, and the evidence suggests that you can. Because at every juncture, you plan for the groceries, you bring in a ham. Then a ham is a hard side does that not cause me not be able to get maybe that little tea bag that I like because you want a ham. So one must be reasonable, and then you must list. I do this in all my concepts. You write down everything. All right, we have our budget and whatever. Reasonable here also speaks to this fact, and I look at it from both sides. Then you go in now to pool these resources. You cannot expect that if your husband or your wife is getting $1,000 and you are getting $4,000, that you're supposed to look at the bills and split them in half. I hear people say that relationship is 50-50. Stop fooling ourselves with those myths. A relationship is 100%.
Bishop Mark, I've heard this is a major discussion.
I know. I call some
they still expect that person to pay half.
Yes, to pay the same. Right. So that is unreasonable. There's nothing that's crazy. And you know what that says to me? That speaks to selfishness, and I want to call it where it's ignorance. And if you're a man like that, you can't do that. We can't be talking about equal when you get it when the ratio is 4-1. There's nothing about that is fair. So you have to look at the thing and say, look, if I get in 4 times to your 1, we have to look at the expenses, a minimum 4-1. Has to be. Right? So that is why I add there that there must be a sense of reasonableness, if there's such a word. And if you can't get it, as we advocate on this program all the time, get help. Because not you're going to find yourself being disgruntled, you're going to find yourself angry, you're going to find yourself, some ladies do this to the men, we're on a men's program, we letting you all know this is mess with us, because we can't get that your way, you hold off on the things that the Bible says belong to us. You understand? You hold back stuff. I want to mama guy for no, you can't do that, right? And I mean, I'm not saying that men don't do the thing too. So I'm just saying though, what are some things that stress us? So therefore, you can't be doing it. The other thing too is that I think Marissa mentioned a little bit about it. Is this: if you are the woman in the relationship and you are making more, man, don't make your husband feel bad about it. No, what you do is, even if you have the more money, you organize to get a card or a little wallet that when he goes out, he can pull his wallet and pay, even though there's your money, because it's your all money. And on the other side of the coin, gentlemen, if you have a wife who is working for more than you, stop being feeling intimidated. There are a lot of men who love that position. Don't be intimidated. right? But what you got to do is to deal with it in a holistic way, you know, and especially if I have a wife who's willing to, you know, to give and not hoard and that kind of thing. But you have to accept that, all right, she's working for more than me. That's a blessing. Don't let it become a curse, as Marissa was saying. So that'd be my 4 cents or 15 cents or whatever.
What about, because we're gonna wind down shortly. What about this situation? We go into the supermarket and my husband expects me to give him the money so that he can pay the cashier. Does it make a difference who gives the money to the cashier?
But no, you shouldn't wait till you get in the supermarket to get buying the money to pay for nothing. That's lawless. You can't do that. You in the car, do it. Home, do it. Don't you go to the supermarket, honey, pay? No, man, that will look up a man. So you can't do that either. You do what you gotta do before you get any people place. Why should somebody see me? Honey, pay what? No, boy, if my wife working for more or not for me, she can do that. You're in a restaurant, I said, honey, pay? No, boy, I walk outside. I'm very honest, because all these are things that should be done before. Oh, you can pull up money and give me in the supermarket. That's a power thing there. I have that. You give me the money in the car or before we left home. As a matter of fact, it should be well planned before, right? Don't come give me the money to pay nothing. No, we may not operate. So that's just again.
But that's like a deeper issue there, though. In terms of scenario, the man feels that he must have the money to pay. He must.
But Bishop, whatever it is, that should be done right away. That shouldn't be, nobody should be able to see that. That's our discussion. Nobody should be able to see that. That is the man that's saying to her, well, look, you get more. But when we going anywhere, you must got the money. Even if I did that, although that's still wrong. But once we have decided on that, why should we do that publicly? Why should somebody see me say, come honey, hold on, pay? What? No, man. No, we can't tell you all about planning, about budgeting, and about discussing. Go through what you like and don't like. And therefore, if you're working for more, don't lord it over me. Right? Don't start to feel that you can make decisions without me. All those kind of things. But the important thing is that once it is discussed, let me deal with that discreetly. You know, pull up in a restaurant, honey, what was he saying? Pull it out for you purse to give me the pay and for everybody. Would that worse?
but for me, it's a matter of motive. Yeah, because I don't have a problem with it. Once we are on the same page. There are times that, for example, the wife would got the money, she would slip it to me. Nothing. It's just that she's the one carrying the money and I'm the one at the cashier, and she would just pass it to me. No big deal. I got no hidden issues, no hidden agenda, nothing. So it's just that I was the one who unpacked the groceries, and I up front, so I already there. So you just slip me the money. Same thing with if she's the one who take out the groceries, pass my wallet and say, hey, go. There ain't no power, nothing there. You understand? It's a whole different perspective. But what Bishop Mark is talking about is when you have those hidden issues, those hidden agendas, and you got established power and that kind of thing. So it depends on the health of the relationship, because some things can be perceived differently if the relationship is unhealthy. That there's a power thing. Yeah, but if the relationship is healthy enough, then it's just two people. It's like they belong to each other, so they can there are times like in terms of my marriage, how we manage the funds is that most of the money would stay on one account. Yeah, and so because most of the money is on one account, if the wife says, hey, I need to do something and so on, I automatically just tell her, okay, you go in and transfer what you need, or I will go ahead and transfer it for you, so that it'll be convenient. But there's a shared space, yeah, there's shared income, and that is the perspective that we like to operate with. One family, one account, basically. Not that there's only one account, but we recognize that we sharing everything. And then we have to be agreed on how the money is going to be spent, and that is how we operate. But for some people, they divided, they conflicted. So because they conflicted, the marriage in difficulty is my money, your money, and all kind of drama will take place in those kinds of scenarios.
Yeah, but that is why I said initially that each person's situation is unique. See what I'm saying? And that is why that's why discussion must happen, because I can never say your scenario, but pastor there is wrong, because that works for you and your spouse, and that's what we're talking about. Be open enough, look at each other's culturalization, how you were brought up, the things that irritate you, discuss. It becomes a holistic thing, so that when I go, no, and my wife pass the money to me, and I know that that's not a problem, I feel the way. But there are people who are intimidated by these things, and therefore it's important that you work within your environment for the betterment of the workings of the relationship.
All right. So here's where we're going to wind down. Our topic today on being broke is no joke. And I'll tell you there's more to come because we are planning our Men on Monday conference coming up next month. And we want all of you to be a part of it. This is for the men. So, women, and those of you who usually join with us, feel free. We're going to be sharing more information in the coming weeks ahead so that you can be a part of our conference. There's a small cost attached to it just to make sure that we can present it to you in the best way possible. But we're going to have a session that's for men only. The women are not allowed. No women are allowed to this session. This is a session for men only, where the men will be able to be free to share, to ask their questions, and to learn more. And that's coming up next month for our Men on Monday conference, continuing with our Becoming a Better Man series. So, women, I encourage you to make sure you get your men in place. And it's one of the sessions will be in person. One session will be via Zoom, and we'll have one session that will be all day for the men. To the men will come on and bring the men out. The men are gonna have a good time together. Following our COVID protocols, but they'll be it's a men for men. So it'll be planned accordingly. So Susan, yes. So we're looking forward to having all of you. We'll have more details in the weeks coming up. And in the season, I believe that this is a time to learn and to grow together, and also make sure that fellowship still stays intact. So our Men on Monday team will be having our conference coming up next month, June. All right, next month in June. We'll share those dates with you and all the other details. But I want to say thanks to Bishop Edison and Bishop Mark with us today. Minister Sinclair unable to be with us. I offered apologies for him as we began our show. But to all of you, don't forget to check out Pastor Bino's book. And his book talks about the success factors that you can employ, that you can add to your lifestyle to make sure that you become better. And of course, you can get that book available on Amazon. And also, Bishop Mark has his book, Marriage is Hard Work. You'll hear more about those books at our scheduled Men on Monday conference coming up next month. Thanks to all of you. For those of you who've been with us for the first time, welcome. Hit that like button, share it with us, and share it with your friends. Being broke, no joke. I think we had a robust discussion today, a great discussion today. We did have it. And I'm sure that we learned today. I walked away with some truths. I'm sure you did too. Thanks again to all of you for viewing with us, and also for those of you who've been watching, and those of you who've been commenting. So stay tuned. Coming up, we have our Men on Monday conference next month. So stay tuned. Stay tuned. Kelia, thank you so much for joining us. She says it's a great session as always. So we'll have that in person. One of our sessions will be live via Zoom, and then we'll also have another session for the men, which will be happening on a Saturday, and it will be in person. Some real truth that we'll be sharing. These men and our guests will also be sharing in those sessions. Have a great one. God bless you. And that has been today's show of Men on Monday. God bless you. Bye bye.